Hi, this is Jamie with Coastal Business Supplies. Today we are going to talk about heat transfer paper versus sublimation paper right after this. And we're back. So today we are going to talk about the difference between heat transfer paper and sublimation paper. So first, going into heat transfer paper, there are two different options you have. You either have inkjet or laser. Inkjet is on the surface as well, onto cotton, polyester, or blend. And with this paper, you can do it with a few different papers that we sell, which is the Jet Pro Soft Stretch and Red Grid, as well as for darks, the 3G Jet Opaque, the Jet Dark, and the Easy Jet. So with this, we've done this on a dark colored shirt. You will notice that you have a background. One disadvantage to inkjet is that a film will transfer over unless you do a contour cut, or you can use an X-Acto knife to get as close as possible to the image, or you can even use scissors to trim around the image as best as possible. So that's with inkjet. So again, for lights, if you're doing a light colored shirt, you have a film that transfers over as well, but it's not as noticeable as with a dark colored shirt. Again, you can always contour cut or use an X-Acto knife. And with inkjet, you also need to be using a pigment-based ink for the transfer. You can get that really anywhere, but just always make sure it's a pigment-based ink versus a dye-based ink. Dye-based, you'll experience washing issues. It usually washes out within 1 to 2 washes just because the fabric fibers can't withstand that ink. Now we're going to talk about laser. So laser has a benefit because you can do light and dark colored garments as well as hard surface items with a hard surface paper. So going into laser, for laser there is self-weighting and non-self-weighting papers. So for light color fabrics, you do have non-self-weighting papers, which basically means it's similar to inkjet, where you will have a film that transfers over. And then for darks or even lights, there's self-weighting papers where there's usually a 2-step for a dark colored garment or a 1-step for a light colored garment transfer paper. So we have Image Clip that we sell, Forever that we sell, that are 2-step self-weighting papers. And that means you basically eliminate the background. So here you don't see that there is a background in the image because it's a 2-step process, so it eliminates that background for you. So that's a huge benefit and a huge savings in production time. But another benefit is that you can do hard surface items. So basically you can have a hard surface paper that you'll run through your printer, and you can transfer it to a surface that doesn't have to have any type of special coating, which is great. So we have here is wood. We also have a little wood coaster, but you can do any aluminum or ceramics, so tiles, things of this nature. So that is laser. And again, laser, you want a CMYK printer, or you can use a white toner printer. We do sell the Oki Data version, so that's really what we can kind of work with and guarantee. But there are a lot of different papers out there on the market that work with different printers. You just have to really be careful. So if you do need additional information on that, just give us a call. We're more than happy to assist. But again, we use a Oki. We have the white toner system, which is the 711 and the 8432. And then we have a CMYK, which we have the 831. So that's all powder-based that you can use for this process. So now we're going to move on to sublimation. So sublimation is limited in the sense versus inkjet and laser that you can only do 100% polyester and on white or very light colored garments. The only way to get around this is that you can do a blend. You just have to do a blend that is higher in polyester. So the lowest we say to go usually is 60% polyester, 40% cotton. And this will basically just give you a faded vintage look. So here we've done on a garment, we have 100% polyester, and again, it's on white. So you're gonna get the most vibrant transfer out of white. If you do a shade, like a gray or a pink or a blue, lighter in shade, it's gonna take on that transfer. So you just always have to be careful. It's really about your audience and what you're targeting. So basically with this, you have sublimation paper that you'll transfer to, and you can do things of this nature. Everything has to have a polyester coating. Again, with a heat press, so this was done with sublimation as well as this. So really, options are out there for sublimation, just as long as something has a polyester coating and it's ready to go. So again, this 100% polyester, white, and then again for your substrates. So now that we have covered the basics of heat transfer paper versus sublimation paper, now we're going to go into the durability. So with inkjet and laser, you get around about 25 to 35 washes. It really just depends. how you wash it. We always recommend cold water, inside out, best to hang dry, but of course, if you're busy, washing in the dryer is fine. Washing on cold and in the dryer is fine. Just really be careful. With sublimation, however, it's in there for life, basically, the life of the garment. It's not going to fade, it's not going to crack, it's not going to peel. It's in there. It has a nice smooth feel when you're running your hands over it. Where Inkjet's a little bit rough. Laser, it's nice because you have a RIP program that you can always send your image through and to kind of lessen that toner on there. And so it has a nice smooth feel as well. Just the durability, isn't as good as, of course, sublimation. So that's really where that is. And one thing I forgot to mention is that sublimation is similar to laser, where it is self-weeding because it's naturally self-weeding. So you're never going to have to worry about cutting, trimming, weeding away at all. So you kind of eliminate that extra step. So it saves you on productivity time. And now we're going to dive into startup costs. So in general, Inkjet is normally more reasonable in the market just because basically you can just use your home printer just with pigment-based ink. So all you really need is a inkjet printer, a heat press, and a transfer paper. Moving on to sublimation. With sublimation, you have a little bit more of a startup cost than inkjet, but still at a very reasonable rate. So Sawgrass has introduced the SG400 and SG800 to the industry, making it more convenient for customers to buy. So really all you need for sublimation would be a sublimation printer, your sublimation ink, sublimation paper, your substrates, again that has to be polyester coated, and then a heat press. Now with laser is a bit more expensive in the industry just because of the nature of a laser system. Again, if you have a CMYK versus CMY with a white toner, it's going to be more of a cost as well. Again, with laser you have self-weeding options, so paper costs will go up significantly just based off of that. But again, your productivity time will go down, as well as the advantage of the self-weeding and the hand to it. So that's really startup costs right there. And now to wrap things up. So we're just going to cover all of our bases here. So first we're going to start off with Inkjet. Inkjet, again, you have very low startup costs. You can do it on cotton, polyester, and a blend, on white and dark colored garments, and you have a wide variety of papers to choose from. So sublimation is great because, again, you do not have a feel to it. The design is basically in the garment or the substrate for life, so you don't have to worry about any fading, cracking issues. Startup costs are reasonably low still for getting into the industry. And overall, you have a lot of different options as far as transferring goes. You are, however, limited to 100% polyester or, again, a high polyester count. So, again, we usually recommend at the lowest a 60% polyester, 40% cotton. So now we're going to wrap up with laser. So laser has a higher startup rate just because of the consumables that are involved with the toner, as well as the printer cost and transfer cost. But it can go on to hard surfaces. For fabrics, it can go on to cotton, polyester, or a blend, white or dark colored garments, and you do have a huge selection of papers, including self-weeding paper. So again, that eliminates a lot of productivity time because you don't have to send it to a cutter to weed away the excess. You have a lot of time there on your hands, as well as sending it through a RIP program. With the RIP program, you can rasterize the image so that tones down on your yield. So as always, thank you for watching our video tutorial, and we'll see you next time.